So I'm Dean Alyssa Derrickson, and I'm Dean of Undergraduate Studies, but I'm only Dean of Undergraduate Studies for about another week. So kind of like you, I am in transition. How do you feel about your transition? Because every day I feel just a little different about mine. Sometimes I'm sad because I'm leaving this position, and sometimes I'm happy because I get to go on sabbatical, which is like a paid leave for a year to do research. Not a bad idea if you're thinking about becoming a faculty member. And sometimes I'm happy because I get to go back and do more biology, which is where I'm from. And I hope that for you, most of the days you're more happy than sort of sad about the things you're leaving behind, but happy about the things that are coming up. So today I want to talk just a little bit about the curriculum and a little bit about your schedule. So how many of you want 8 o'clock classes? I bet you had them before, didn't you? Yeah, and you're probably looking forward to college of not having them. My daughter went here. She didn't get any special favors, unfortunately for her, but she had in her first semester not an 8 o'clock class, but had a class that went from 6:30 to 9, which was very different for her, and that was not a fun experience. And the message of that is, we're setting up your schedule and you're going to finish your schedule, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But you may not get exactly what you want, but overall in the 4 years you will get what you need. I think that's an old Rolling Stones song. And I apologize for that. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you about the curriculum, and I'm interested in talking to you about that because I think our curriculum is pretty unique, and it's going to be something that's really going to change you. That, with the faculty, are going to help shape you to become a loyal alum, a person for and with others. And so we're going to get started by doing just a little bit of background, and then we'll get down to the nuts and bolts. So somewhere, right out here, there's a little thing so that I can see what's going on. But I can't move it. Without having to look at the screen. So let me just move the lectern just a little bit. Okay. So I know that in the opening, the person who's going to replace me, Mr. Mike Puma, talked a little bit about Jesuit education and the fact that the Jesuits have been into education for about 500 years. And what they started was really something unique. Education at sort of the university level had been isolated to people that were going into the priesthood or becoming a religious person. And they opened it up to the public. So that was kind of a novel idea at the time. And it's grown throughout the world. As you might know, there's 4 Loyolas across the U.S. We're the only one with the Loyola.edu. So a little forward thinking there someone was. And we've been in Baltimore City for about 150 years. So this Jesuit education thing includes most of what you would see in any good university or college across the U.S. I'm going to give you some Greek words. This was a slide from somebody else. But the words are techne, prudentia, and eudaimonia. And what they refer to is the fact that if you go to any good college or university in America, they'll be able to teach you skills so that you can get your first job. And if you go to any liberal arts school, they're going to give you a curriculum which really helps you to refine and hone your critical thinking skills so that you can take a problem and really look at it from different ways. And we do both of those things, but we add in this thing called eudaimonia, which is happiness, which is not happiness in the way that you might oftentimes think of it, but happiness in terms of what is going to make you fulfilled in your life. How are you going to find what you're meant to be? And part of what helps us to help you is our curriculum. And the part of the curriculum that we call the core. So Loyola's curriculum consists of 3 parts. This would be similar to what you would see at other universities. They have these 3 parts too. You have your core courses. Those might be you might be more familiar with them being called Gen Ed courses. Has anybody heard that term? So for us, Gen Ed is the core. It's It is an array of courses, but it's more defined for us and more thoughtfully defined. That core is a big component of your education. Another big component of your education will be your major. And the third part will be your 3 electives. So basically, to graduate from here, you need to have a major. You need to have an average of at least a 2.0 or C average. And you need to have 120 credits. And you're going to get, depending on your major, those 120 or more credits through 38 courses, up to 40 courses. So do we have any science majors in here, potential science majors? Okay, I see a few hands. If you have labs, those are sometimes 1 or 2 credits, and that will get you up to 120 faster than somebody who's, say, a sociology major that has only 3 credit courses. So that's why there's a little bit of difference. In addition to those 3 areas, I wanted to point out on the top, we have many courses that are designated D courses, diversity courses, that deal with either global diversity, domestic diversity, or justice. We call them D courses because in the catalog, they have a D at the very end of their 5-digit code. Okay? And many students take more than 1 D course, but you need to take at least 1 D course. So the core at Loyola, this basic part of our curriculum that's really kind of unique for Jesuit schools, includes courses in the humanities, such as English and philosophy, includes courses in the social sciences, such as economics and political science, and courses in the natural and applied sciences, such as my home base of biology. And together these courses can give you a grander worldview and be the mechanism for your personal growth. To me, the courses in the humanities teach us what it means to be human. How do artists, writers, historians, and theologians thought about what it means in its fullest sense to be human? In the social sciences, you can learn how economists and sociologists and psychologists understand how humans interact, how we create identity, and how we create institutions, and how we interact in those institutions. In the natural and applied sciences, we open our worldview to see what it means to turn outward and attempt to understand what we are a part of, the grandeur of this world, and the immensity of the universe. So today I'm just focusing on what are called curricular aspects of your education, but there's also co-curricular aspects that I'm not going to be talking about today, but they're also important, like study abroad or service learning, or extracurriculars, which are also important too, like club sports. And some of you will have all of those things to make up your education. And today we're just going to focus on the academic part. So let's just return to just a tiny bit more detail about the core. So the core consists of 15 courses. That is heavily weighted in the humanities. Okay, so the humanities are a big part of the core. Because I mentioned, one of the unique things about Jesuit education is we try to help you to think about, to find your own perspective of what it means to be a successful human. What are you drawn to do? What is your calling in that sense? So you'll see courses in writing, fine arts, history, modern or classical language, literature, philosophy, theology, and kind of a capstone is ethics. Usually people take ethics towards the end. 2 social sciences, math, natural science, and or applied science. In the core, you're going to really create the foundation for the work in all of your courses. And oftentimes when students are here in the midst of the core, they tend to think of it as oftentimes a box checking exercise, like I've got to take a writing course, I've got to take a course in biology, God forbid. But what we find is that people, when they graduate, that's the thing that they feel most formed them and helped them in their position. As you may know, people predict that your group, you have a particular job that you want to have when you come out, but you'll have multiple jobs throughout your lifespan, and some of those may even be multiple career choices. Like, for example, I've been a biology faculty member for quite a while, and then I decided to become chair of the academic senate, a completely different skill set, and then I moved on to become the dean of undergraduate studies. You too will probably have different types of jobs, and the understanding of how people think, how different disciplines construct questions, that's all going to help you as you move into these different career paths and help you to define for yourself what a successful life for you will be. So, some of you think you have a major. How many think you have a major? It's a trick question. Okay, none of you have a major. What you have is an intended major, and that's going to be important in how we assign you classes for the fall. So when you filled out the demographic form, you put down an intended major, and you're going to have to, if you've changed your intended major, let us know about that so that we can update that. Every student, we usually have about 60 to 70% of students who come in with an intended major, and the remaining 30 to 40% don't have one yet. There's no difference in your success whether you start with an intended major or not that we found here. So everybody's going to have a major, though. At some point, you're going to declare your major, either at the end of your first year or by the end of your third semester. And then you really will have a major, and you'll be assigned an advisor in your major. Okay? Right now, your advisor is going to be one of your Messina faculty members. So I've talked about the core and the major. There's going to be overlap between those two. For example, science majors will have their science and math core fulfilled in their major. They won't have to take extra ones. And then finally, we've got the free electives, and those are really your time to sort of have some fun. If you like art but you don't think you can make a career out of it, you can take art courses. If you like to just learn a little bit more about philosophy, but you don't want to commit to it yet, that could be a minor. So you could use those minor credits to take courses that are just fun. You could put them together to make a minor. Or you may even at times have enough elective credits to have a double major. So your fall schedule and what's happening right now. Okay, so in May and June, well, the most important thing that happened in May and June isn't up here, and that's that you graduated, so congrats on that. But the other thing is that we asked you to do two things, and that's take the math placement test and the language placement test. And yesterday I asked if everybody had done that, and then I publicly shamed someone who hadn't. I just pointed it out, she was in the front row. So the reason that you need to take them is that you can't actually take a language course unless you start a new language without taking the language placement test. Okay, so you must do that. So if you haven't done it, do it as soon as possible. And the same for the math placement test. Which level of math courses you can take depends on how you score on that math placement test. Okay, so both of those are important for you to do as soon as possible. What we've done is we've taken your Messina requests and put you in a Messina pairing. AASC is an acronym for our Academic Advising Office. They're a professional office where advisors are around every day, Monday through Friday. And they have created a partial schedule for each of you by this point. You've all been placed in your Messina pairing. If you have an intended major, you're put in the appropriate courses for the first year. And if you don't have an intended major, you're put in one or two core courses. Okay, so everybody has anywhere from 2 to 4 courses. Remember I said that you needed 120 credits to graduate? What that generally means is that you have to take 5 courses of 3 or more credits each semester. So that means that we've given you a schedule, but it's not finished yet. Okay? To finish it, you have to get familiar with something called student planning. This is going to be a program that you're going to use throughout your years here to keep track of your academic progress. Have any of you gone into Inside Loyola? It's a screen with a bunch of green buttons on there. And one of them is your portal, which will get you to student planning. Okay. And we're sending out an email, I believe today, that gives you more information on how to do that. You should start getting familiar with that now, because also starting about now, you will be contacted by your Messina advisor. And you're going to meet with them during the month of July at a time that's mutually convenient on Zoom. Okay. And at that meeting, you're going to find out a little bit more about them. They'll find a little bit more about you. And then you are going to talk a little bit about your schedule and what you want to add to it, or if you need to drop something because things have changed. Okay, so discuss additions to your course schedule, and as time permits at that meeting, you can add courses to your schedule. And then for the remainder of July, you'll want to finish your schedule and make sure that you have 5 courses in there. If you want to drop anything, like if you need to change something that was already pre-assigned to you, you should talk with your advisor about that at that meeting. And if you've already had that meeting and it comes up subsequently, like let's say you realized your AP scores include a course that would have counted for Messina and you want to accept the AP credits, then you're going to want to talk to somebody in academic advising. I'm pausing just briefly. Do we have any questions at this point in time? Okay. Just about finished with our time. I wanted to, every time when I talk to the advising staff, to faculty, the one number that they should know on campus if you have any questions about policy or curriculum is 5050. Okay, so say that out loud, just really quietly. Can you say 5050? That's very good. Okay, so imprint that. I know nobody likes to talk at these sessions. So on the academic advising website, there's a lot of information, including the worksheets. So let's say you have an intended major. What you want to do is you can go look at the academic worksheet before you meet with your advisor, and you'll see sort of what's recommended, what you have to accomplish in your 4 years. So for example, here's one for speech, language, hearing sciences, and it's a 2-page handout. On the first page, it lists all of the core courses. You can see 15 of them there. Some of them are also accounted for in the major in speech, hearing sciences, like that number 11, one course in biology. And that would be how they would fulfill those courses. So you can look at the 3 that you have and pick out other areas that you think you might be interested for your fourth and fifth or third course. On the other side of that worksheet, it lists for that major what courses are required for the major. So you go in and choose your particular major, and there'll be a worksheet for every one of those. We don't have the ones for the class of 2026 yet, but the class of 2025 worksheet should work just pretty well for you for your first year especially. And in the remainder, you see the free electives. And for speech, hearing sciences, you see they have 11 free electives that they can use for whatever they want. I feel like the time is just about up, but I didn't start my watch, so, I have a timer on here. I think it still says 14 minutes and 59 seconds, so I have plenty of time to go. So I know that you may have questions, but if you do have questions, you'll be able to ask them when you meet your advisor. And if you still have questions, you're going to call a number. And what's that number? 5050. Awesome. Exactly. And I didn't tell you the first 6 numbers, but it's 410617. But that's every Loyola number. Okay, so make sure you know how to log in, learn your ID number, and check your Loyola email, because that's where all the official documentation is going to come from. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dean Derrickson. Y'all, my name is Tim Cherney. I am going to be talking about living on campus. And so for those of you who are commuting, I don't want to bore you. Luke will be joining you. You can head right back to the lobby there for a session for commuter students. So if anybody's commuting head out, hang out with Luke for a little bit. I'll give you some time to mosey. Everybody else, you're stuck sitting in your seats with me. Yay, thanks. So while they're pulling up the presentation, oh, you're so good. So presentation, so again, I'm Tim Cherney, Associate Director, Student Life. Student Life is our Residence Life office. So I'm talking about living on campus today. I want to give you a bit of an introduction to our office, but mostly I want to talk through your housing application, which you all would have done the first part, and now yesterday just launched the second part of finding that roommate match and navigating those. So we know there's some questions, things that there's plenty of answers on our website, but sometimes there's some nuanced pieces. So I'd love to spend some time with you all to talk through what it means to live on campus and what some of those questions actually apply to. So again, Student Life. Student Life provides a foundation for a safe and inclusive home where community engagement is not only supported, it's expected. And I think that's a really key point. You have to be able to engage with people in your residence halls. You have to be able to engage with your roommates. If you are somebody who is thinking, just, I want to go to college, keep my head down, you don't bother me, I won't bother you, and get my degree and go, you have chosen the wrong school because we are all up in your business. Like, it is part of what it means to be part of a community. That core value is that you are responsible for people around you, they're responsible for you. And so that's what we mean by expected. Community living and living with that many people who are in a building, it is fulfilling, it is exciting, it is terrifying, tedious, it is amazing and horrible all at the same time. Because you get an opportunity to be surrounded by people who are also sharing in this college transition. And you are surrounded by people who are sharing in this college transition. And it can be stressful. So what we want to talk about is how you communicate with others, how do you kind of get prepped for living in community. We talked about expected, but it's also support. We got a bunch of people. Those are them. There's a whole bunch of staff members who live in the residence halls who are here to support you. Here's some of their beautiful faces. Let's mosey on. Let's talk about your roommate questionnaire. So something that you've already done is phase 1, but you can edit this until July 8th. So I wanted to take some time to talk through some of these pieces. In that, it talks about what kind of roommate you think you're going to be. Asking questions about how neat you are, what time you go to bed, all of those things. If you are somebody who was thinking, I don't really need to worry about this guy I know who I'm living with, I want you to go back and revisit that sheet. One of the things on there you're going to be asked about is whether or not you want a double or apartment. So you're not able to choose the exact building you want to live in, but your first year you're allowed to tell us whether or not you want a double or an apartment. Just a refresher, doubles could be Thea Bowman, they could be Butler, Hammerman, or Hopkins. They're all a little bit different in different ways. Apartments are going to be Campion, which we had open on the tour today, but also could be Seton or Southwell. So just knowing that you're able to give that preference, we try our best to match you with that preference, but it's always going to depend on the class year. If y'all want apartments, sooner or later we run out of apartments, and people will be in doubles, and vice versa. Show you a little bit about these layouts. Again, typical, this is a Campion layout, 2-bedroom, 4 people, bathroom, kitchen. If you're interested in apartments, they're really cool. Keep in mind that you have to clean your kitchen and clean your bathroom yourself. Give me 1 second, yeah. You have to clean your kitchen and your bathroom yourself. It's not only that you're cleaning your mess, it's also the fact you're living with 3 to 5 other people and trusting that they also know how to clean a toilet. If you don't know how to clean a toilet, great life skill to learn before you enter Loyola in August. What was your question?
You said that sometimes they run out of dorms, and so you have to do an apartment, and vice versa. Let's say they run out of dorms, and you have to do an apartment. I know apartments cost more than dorms.
Yeah, great question. The question was, if you have to make a choice between double or an apartment, and knowing apartments cost more than doubles. That's not true, which is lovely. For sophomore, junior, senior year, there's a difference in price. In the first year, because you don't have the choice to decide whether or not you want a double or an apartment, it's the exact same rate, which is a lower rate. I'm not sure you can give a preference, but you can't choose because we place you. So for sophomores, juniors, and seniors, not only do you choose the exact building you want to live in, you choose the room and the actual bed you're sleeping in. As first-year students, you give your preference of a double or an apartment, and then we place you in what's available. So that's the difference, because we match you with people and we place you because you don't know others, we don't expect you to form that group. So for all of you, if you're making the decision of double or an apartment, if the question is, well, I can't afford an apartment, yes, you can, because it's the same price as a double. choose the building and choose the layout that you think is going to be best for your living style and the environment that you want. Thanks for asking that question. So again, general layout, double. You're going to have a lot more common areas. There's going to be a lot more lounges. If you are somebody that knows that, hey, if I'm in an apartment, it means I'm living with all these people. There's no common areas. If I get sick of them, I can just mosey onto the dining room and maybe into the living room, but I can't escape them. In a double style building, we have a lot more lounges, a lot more areas for study spaces, and so you can kind of hang out there, see other people, great for meeting others. The thing I always hate about our little document, we have a bunch of pictures on our website. They always do this foot to foot, and I don't like that. I say do head to head. Look right at each other in the middle of the night. How was your day? Sleep tight. Smooches. Get to know your roommate a little bit better. So again, if you're that person, you went down that roommate questionnaire and you said everything down the center, because I'm super chill, just as long as we communicate with each other and we're respectful, and we'll be totally fine. I don't believe you. We are all different when it comes to our housing style. There are all things that we think are most important to us. So please think about the things that are important to you, not what's important to your parents or what was important to a cousin who went here 20 years ago. Think about what's important to you in a style and what's also going to be best for you when it comes to meeting other people. Whether or not you want that apartment setting or whether or not you want a double setting. Focus on the environment you want to create in the room. Sometimes we focus so much on the person. I want to live with the person I know, that we don't think about the fact that that person actually is going to be bringing people over, causing a mess, having a horrible room environment. We have different styles of studying. We won't get together well. Who are you today, and who will you reasonably be in September? Sometimes there's something beautiful about coming to college because it's a fresh start. And sometimes people will say, you know what, I know that I went to bed at 2 a.m. when I was in high school and I was messy and horrible, but in college, new me, new year, I am going to be clean and go to bed early. That may not be reasonable your first week. I am somebody who, when I come home, I take my shoes off, I throw my shirt over there. I'm not a neat person. I keep my kitchen clean, my bathroom clean, but I am a slob in every other way. Every year I'm like, I'm gonna be neater. That is a 40-year journey that I have yet to complete. You might change throughout college. It might not happen in September. So don't put that added pressure on wanting to be something different when you first start off. And then complete all questions no matter what. Even if you feel like you know who you're gonna live with, still make sure you're answering these honestly. We use these for future matching. We also use this in case maybe something happens to the roommate you're planning on living with. We match you with somebody who would be a good match. There are 3 key questions that you saw in the roommate questionnaire, and I want to go over a couple of them because they can be maybe not always as self-explanatory. The first one is, would you prefer a substance-free roommate? I think it's really important to note here, when we say substance-free roommate, we're not saying that you're signing a declaration that you are never going to use alcohol or drugs ever in your time. You're not saying, I am in a substance-free community where there will never be drugs, alcohol, or whatever else. We're just saying that for roommate matching, you're asking for somebody else who wants this space we live in, not to have alcohol or the effects of alcohol or drugs or tobacco or anything else. Knowing I'm not going to have to worry about my roommate bringing a slew of alcohol in the space or having people play drinking games in my room or coming back drunk and throwing up. That's what we're saying is we want to match you up. That's the only thing it's used for, is to find you a compatible roommate, because we often find that this is a key place where roommate conflicts happen. If you are somebody who's thinking, I might dabble in a White Claw, I'm not going to be substance-free. You want to be substance-free, I promise you. If that's kind of the mentality, you're looking for somebody else in that space where this is not going to be an area where there's going to be negative aspects of alcohol. We ask you whether or not you have smoked in the past 30 days, not if you're a smoker, not if you were a smoker, not if you identify as a smoker, have you smoked in 30 days? This is also something that sometimes causes roommate conflicts. And the last one is, would you be welcoming and supportive to an LGBTQPI+ roommate? We ask this question because we know, personally, a lot of my queer siblings and peers coming to college can be really anxiety producing. I know when I went to college, I was worried about whether I was going to find my classes, whether or not my roommate was going to eat my Cheetos. Adding on, is my roommate going to beat me up because I'm queer, is a whole other thing I don't want my queer siblings having to worry about. So if you are somebody that you know, I would be a great roommate. If somebody's part of the LGBTQPI+ community, they do not have to worry about whether or not I'd be affirming or supportive. I would be a great roommate. They would not have to worry about that. Please answer yes to this so that your roommate can come into that space, not even having to ask you, not having to out themselves, just knowing that I'm in a safe space, walking in day one. If you are unsure, write unsure. You're going to notice that no is not an answer. You can't say, I don't want to live with somebody who's part of the queer community. As a university with sexual identity and gender identity as part of a non-discrimination clause, nobody can be unwelcoming. That's not an option on campus. But if you are that person who'd be that amazing roommate, please go ahead and answer yes to that. For anybody who is also interested specifically in finding a roommate who wants to be in a queer affirming space, not just welcoming and supportive, but a queer affirming space, and that perhaps you want to form a roommate group that's made up of various genders, you can also apply for all gender housing. You'll find that on the website. When you go through your housing application, there will be a question for that, and then there will be a whole spot where you can look through what it means, the agreement of what it means to be part of a queer affirming space that's all gender. If you have any questions about that whatsoever, please don't hesitate to email me. I'm happy to answer any questions. And if you find that you're worried about the binary structure of how our housing usually is, which is male or female based on your housing application, it doesn't meet your needs, and it also, all gender housing doesn't feel like something that you can safely do or want to do, email me. There might be something that we can do to make sure you have a safe space. Okay, so that's something you just did. Roommate matching. This is what you're in right now until July 8th. And this is where you get to find that soulmate for your time here at Loyola. And so how many people know who you already want to live with? You have found that person, you found your soulmate. I love it, I love it, I love it. Some things I always want to know with this. Sometimes best friends don't make best roommates. And sometimes that one person who went to your high school, who you never talked to in high school, but you found out they're going to Loyola as well, so you decide you might as well live together, sometimes is not the best roommate. So have that conversation, especially if it's your best friend. What sometimes happens is that best friends come here to college together, find out while they're at college that they're not good roommates for each other, and now they've lost their roommate and their best friend. Don't do that to yourselves. And so if you know your best friend and you're not good matches. My best friend, love her to death, she falls asleep with Law & Order SVU playing every time we go on vacation. And so every time I'm on vacation at 3 a.m. and I'm waking up boom, boom, in the middle of the night terrified by some horrible sexual violence. So don't, if you know that about your roommate, don't do that. Talk to them, say, hey, you know what? We're good friends, we're gonna stay good friends, I'm so excited for us being friends, but why don't we have separate roommates, and then you'll have a roommate and I'll have a roommate, and then the four of us will be good friends, and then when your roommate annoys you, you can tell me about it, and when my roommate annoys me, I can tell you about it, and we're gonna stay besties. Do that for yourself. So just be mindful that have that conversation up front. It's a lot easier now than it is 3 weeks in when you're stressed out over college. But with all those caveats, if you know who you're living with next year, something you want to do is one of you is going to want to create. I don't want to do that. One of you is going to want to create a group. When that person creates a group, you then can invite the other person, and then that person will agree, stay in that group, and then you'll get matched up together. As long as you both are in that group, on July 8th, we'll pair you up with each other. You can choose one other person. So even if you want to live in an apartment, you can't choose your entire apartment. You can just choose one other person, and then we match you with roommates based on your housing profile, which is why it's really important to answer that honestly if you're looking at apartments. Make sure that you talk to each other beforehand. If you each create a group, you won't be able to find the other, and then you're going to wonder what's going on and why you can't find the person who promised to be your roommate. I also want to share in this moment that if you're here over orientation, sometimes people meet each other during orientation and they talk about living together, and what sometimes happens is like, yes, we should live together, it would be so great, oh my gosh, I can't wait. I'm not living with her. And then they don't have that conversation, just have that honest conversation of, I don't think we'd be a good match. Because instead what's gonna happen is that they're going to go out thinking that I have a roommate, they're going to try to find you, they're not going to be able to find you in the system, they're going to call us at Student Life and say, something's wrong with your system because my friend Tim was supposed to live with me, he told me we were going to live together, and he's not available. And then I have to say, Tim didn't want to live with you. And it's real awkward, and then you're going to see each other, and then I'm spiteful, I'm going to place you right next to each other so you see your deception every day looking them in the eyes. Don't do that to anybody. Have honest conversations. That's going to serve you well now in the roommate matching, as well as your time throughout Loyola. If you don't know who you want to live with, but you want to try your hand in matchmaking, you can certainly do that in a few different ways. Or you can just trust our algorithm to match you up with somebody. So a couple things to keep in mind. Approximately only 30% of first-year students request a specific roommate. So if you're sitting here going, it looks like everybody else already knows who they're living with, it's not usually what happens. Only about 30% of people know who they're living with beforehand. The rest are matched by our system or find somebody through our matching process. We also find that there's no major difference between students who choose their own roommate and those who are matched. So the best friends are just as likely to have a roommate conflict and need to change rooms as the individuals who got matched up through our system. So if you want the algorithm to match you, all you want to do is make sure that on this page, this is where it's going to say, if checked, you'll display in the roommate search pages so that others can find you, you can find others. If you're like, I don't want anybody reaching out to me, I don't want to worry about it, I just want to get matched with the roommate, uncheck this box, and then that's going to let us know that you don't want to be searched, you're not trying to match with somebody, we'll just match you in the housing system. And you'll just hit submit to phase 2. If you want to try your hand in matchmaking, this is a really cool function of our software. And it's that you can search for roommates by details or by profiles, or you can also look to suggest roommates. And so in this regard, you could say, I'm looking for somebody who answers specifically that they're a late night person, or somebody specifically who is really clean. If there's an important part to that roommate matching that is really key to you, it's your make or break, deal breaker, non-negotiable in your room, you can search for other people who answer similarly to that, and then you can try to match up with them. You can also suggest roommates, and we'll do an overall profile review and say, you're an 89% match with Abby, congratulations. Once that happens, please send them a message. Reach out to them and say, hey, it looks like we matched. Can we talk a little bit about our roommate and whether we'd be good matches? Please, I don't know my group tomorrow. Please do not just find them, create a group, and then add them to a group yourself. You're going to be my roommate. Don't do that. Like, just talk to them first, have a conversation, and see if you actually will be a good match. So recap for phase 2. If you want to search for a roommate and be searched by others, make sure you check that box to share your profile. Check your emails regularly, because that's where you're going to get notifications and messages. That's where you're going to get those lifelong soulmates who are saying, I think we should be roommates. And you can have that conversation beforehand. On July 8th, verify that your roommate situation is what you want it to be. Make sure nobody put you in a roommate group. Make sure that the person you want to match with is in your group still and they haven't left your group. Those are all things you want to do July 8th. After all that's done, you're going to get your housing assignment. You'll receive your housing assignment by early August via your little email address. You can also visit our website to learn more about what to bring and what to leave at home. Once you get your housing assignment, contact your new roommates. You're going to get their phone number, their email address. If you're in an apartment, you're also going to find out who are the other people who are living in your apartment. Reach out to them. Find out what they're bringing, what they need from you, what their housing styles are. And please do the thing that we all want to do. We want to go to social media. Please don't do that. Please don't just go and try to find out what they're posting. Who we are on social media is not who we are in real life, for good or for bad. Don't believe everything you see on social media. Years ago, my best friend, the same one I was talking about before that I could never live with because she's horrible, she decided to tag me in a post with a sonogram and said, congratulations, Daddy. It was hysterical, except for everybody here, but for my family and friends in Ohio, who I had spent a decade telling them I was gay, they were real confused. If you have questions at all, don't hesitate to reach out to us. The last thing to keep in mind is you're entering a space. How many of you shared a bedroom with somebody before? Raise your hand. How many, keep them up if it was for longer than like a week, a month, a semester, multiple time. And then keep them up if it was not somebody you're related to. These are our experts. These are the ones who have lived with strangers before, or people that they knew that were not blood related to them. Living with a sibling is a huge thing that's going to prepare you for college. But the way I talk to my brother, nobody should ever talk to another human being. The way we interact with family is very different. So keeping that in mind too, you might have shared a space, but it's different when somebody who you don't know before. The majority of incoming first-year students have never shared a room before. So no matter how confident people feel, this is new for almost everybody. You and your roommates do not have to be best friends. Best friends don't make good roommates don't make best friends all the time. And so keep that in mind, it's just about living together. You will have to make compromises in your living space. What you think is clean is not what somebody else thinks is clean. What you think is respectful communication is not what somebody else might think is respectful communication. How you and your family and your friends kind of navigate spaces is going to be different. And that's the piece of that critical perspective taking that Dean Derrickson was talking about before. You're going to experience in the residence hall as well, is realizing that we value different things. Your roommate will be just as nervous as you. It's the one thing you all have in common. You're all nervous about college. Even if you're looking like you're confident, even if you're excited about college, you're also nervous. And it's going to hit you at some point. And so for anybody who's sitting in the room thinking, everybody seems really cool, collected, everybody seems really scared, or really excited, and I'm really scared, I promise you, you're not alone. So one thing you have in common, share that with each other. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable about being nervous about coming to college or living with somebody else. As loyal students, you and your roommates share the exact same rights and responsibilities. Nobody has precedent because you moved in sooner. Nobody has precedent because you have this room or that room. When people tell me like, oh, well, it's my room, that's not your room. It's community living. It's all of your rooms. Y'all have the same rights and responsibilities, and we'll do whatever we can to protect that and honor that. Your roommate will be different from you and your friends from home, and that is okay. Some of your friends from home are trash. This is your home, and we will do whatever we can to ensure that it is a place where you can learn, grow, and thrive. I use the word home, we talk about welcome home. Depending on who you are and what your experience has been, home can be a really positive thing or a negative thing. When I talk about home, I am talking about that place where I can come back and breathe. Let down my armor, let down my guard, feel like I am accepted for who I am, feel like I am supported and challenged by the people around me. That's what we want to create for you. And so if you are ever coming back to your residence hall and feeling like this is not a space where I feel that I am affirmed, that I feel like I am supported, I feel like harm is being done, that's when we need you to reach out to us. Let us know that so that we can support you, because our whole job here, all the people I showed you before, our whole role is to make sure that you have a safe and successful living environment. What I want you to think about is what steps can you take to make your living space home for somebody else? So often people talk about, well, what if I have a horrible roommate? What if my roommate's horrible? What if this happens? And we focus on the other person. And what I promise you, the bad roommates that I've seen are just two people who have had a hard time communicating with each other, who had very different living styles. I can count on my hand the number of times I was like, oh, you're evil. That doesn't happen. That idea of like, I have a horrible roommate who's this horrible person does not happen. What happens is that two people who don't know how to communicate. And so what I want you to think about is, how can you enter that space going, how can I make sure that my roommate feels loved, supported, and present in the space, that this is a home for them? And if they're thinking about that for you, and you're thinking about it for them, you're gonna have a great living environment. And so as you enter a Jesuit space, thinking through what does it mean for the other? What does it mean for the other person who's there will serve you really well. If you have any questions, you can chat in the room res portal. You can email studentlife@loyola.edu. You're more than welcome to email me, again, TD Cherney. Especially if you have questions about queer initiatives on campus, all gender housing, particularly around those realms, if there's things that you want to discuss, and you want to discuss it with one person as opposed to just an office, please feel free to reach out to me. Thank you so much. If you have questions, I'll stick around, but I think it's time for snacks, so enjoy those. Thank you. If we can start off releasing groups with groups 14 to 18, if that exists.
It's just 10, so we got 1 to 5.
Oh, I love that. If we can do 6 to 10.